Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Thursday, the 2nd of November. And as we've been advertising, multiple rounds of rain and mountain snow return starting today. The first round, that'll pick up through the day today and last into tomorrow. Most of it will be through at least the first part of the day, Friday. Then we go through this pattern of every 24 hours or so. We have another surge of moisture coming in. There'll be some breaks, not very long breaks necessarily, in between these rounds of precipitation. And it may not be totally dry either. We'll definitely see things dropping off in between these surges of moisture coming through. Otherwise, as we've been saying for the past few days, this system, this flow is off the Pacific. It's not coming from the north, it's coming more from the west. It's going to keep those temperatures up. Limited valley snow possible. Mainly, the potential is there if we get some inversions holding in place at times, and that's especially going to be the case, especially here initially, and maybe in between storm systems as we go further on down the road. Satellite shows we got quite a bit of moisture moving in already, and this first wave, like we said, it really ends going into the day tomorrow. And there will be some wind around, but not a whole lot of wind today. Maybe some gusts 20 to 25, especially in some of the ridge tops and across the Snake Plain later on this afternoon and this evening, and as well picking up again tomorrow afternoon. The weather risk outlook matrix, we don't have many impacts. Where we do have the impacts highlighted, and we've timed this out a little bit more as we've seen the models picking up on when these waves do come through. Most of it will be in the higher elevations for today and tomorrow. Today, mainly in the eastern highlands and across the central mountains. Tomorrow, with the precipitation shifting south and east, the main impacts and what impacts there will be over the eastern highlands during the day tomorrow, and then they pick back up in the highlands on Saturday and going into Sunday and Monday as well across the area. So these daily amounts of moisture, they're not going to be a lot, but eventually they'll start adding up as we go through the next several days. So how are things going to progress forecast-wise for today? You'll notice initially that the moisture is over to our north and west, over the west central mountains, up towards the Idaho Panhandle and eastern Washington. We might have a couple of sprinkles across the southeast corner. Going through the rest of the day, later this morning, that kind of initial push comes through. Now, with the air being a bit drier in some places of the lower elevations outside of the central mountains and the eastern highlands, at least for the first part of the day, anything that falls over the lower elevations, even across the South Hills, the Albion Mountains, into the southeast highlands, maybe nothing more than just a brief light shower or some sprinkles falling from that. But that will change later on today. We go into this afternoon, most of the activity hanging in the eastern highlands and another push coming into the central mountains. That will shift to the south and to the east. Here's the main push coming for the rest of southern and eastern Idaho, mid-evening onward into tomorrow morning. We might even see a little bit of resurgence late towards sunrise, late overnight, early morning hours coming up into the southeastern highlands. But the bulk of it is ending as we go through the morning hours. That's not to say we won't have some pockets of some light precipitation falling, but most of it ends as we go through that period. Now, we're going to push this ahead as we can. Not much going into Friday night, Saturday morning. We don't see much going on. That's because the next push really comes later Saturday morning, later into the day Saturday, and continuing into Sunday across central and eastern Idaho. So back to some more of the forecast details. For the precipitation, we're going to take this in some 6-hour increments here. Not much in the way of snowfall in the higher elevations. And most of the snow with this event, above 7,500 feet, we might see some localized light snow, the lower elevations of Island Park and even around the Teton Valley as well. But not much going on this morning precipitation-wise, some light amounts, some heavier amounts with that westerly flow between 1/10 and 2/10 in some parts of Limhi County going into the morning hours. This afternoon, again, amounts will be light. We're still looking at it maybe 1/10 to a couple of tenths over the higher elevations of the central mountains. Up into Limhi County, we might see some amounts between 2/10 and 3/10 up high, not necessarily down at the valley floor elevation. But you see snow levels, keeping the snow in the highest elevations and fairly light. If you're heading over to the Tetons later on this afternoon, that snow does start to pile up during the daytime hours. Into this evening, again, continuing to see the snow pile up in the Tetons, and the highest elevations are around Sawtell Peak, adjacent to Yellowstone National Park. Otherwise, light snow continues in those highest elevations, and this is when we see the precipitation slowly shifting south into the east. Some areas over the far upper end of the plain, over in the eastern highlands, down low at least, picking up over a tenth of an inch of rain this evening until about midnight, starting to taper off a bit, although still some higher amounts on the ridge tops in the central mountains. And this is after midnight to about 6 a.m. You don't see much going on, ending or slowing down over the central mountains. Light amounts heading in through the Magic Valley down into the South Hills, moving into the southern and eastern highlands. And we're still focusing in areas around the Teton Valley, the Big Holes, the surrounding higher elevations, and moving over into the Tetons themselves for tonight. And it might be a bit of a mess tonight into tomorrow morning, moving over Teton Pass. And you can see pretty much shifting overnight, early tomorrow morning, through mid-morning on tomorrow, shifting generally south and east of the Snake Plain. That trend continues into tomorrow afternoon, with some light amounts continuing in those areas. For temperature-wise, we're going to shift back to today. Temperatures generally in the 50s. We might push 60 down around Twin, down towards Oakley as well, the low 60s. Higher elevations will be in the 40s and some 30s up there, especially for the higher peaks and where we get some of the cold air trapped and some inversions up north of Du Bois and on up into the Island Park area. For tomorrow, you'll notice we really have some warm temperatures pushing into the Snake Plain with that system coming through. So staying above freezing for most of the Snake Plain and in the Magic Valley, even to some of the lower elevations down towards the Utah border. Still below freezing or near freezing over the southeastern highlands, the Teton Valley, on up into the eastern highlands as well. The colder spots will be in the low to mid 20s for the overnight hours for your lows Friday morning, and then we push into tomorrow. The inversion breaks, you noticed earlier today. For today, we're talking about 43 for an example in Du Bois. We're going to get warmer where the inversions finally wash out tomorrow. But we cool it back down a handful of degrees elsewhere as we go into tomorrow afternoon. Saturday, with the in-between systems, it'll be a chilly morning on Saturday again, where we do get some wind and some warmer temperatures. It will be at or above freezing, otherwise into the 20s, teens in the higher elevations. This is Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon with that system coming in. We're looking at temperatures not moving too much versus Friday in the afternoon, but we're still seeing mid-50s to upper 50s down across the south, 50s elsewhere in the lower elevations, even some 40s, 30s up in the high country on Saturday. And that trend continues into Sunday we get to the system coming through. Warmer temperatures down low overall, but we'll still see some pockets of below freezing temperatures in the higher valleys in the far upper end of the plain. Temperatures overall on Sunday with more cloud cover dropping back a few degrees across the board. So looking at the total with this event, this takes into account Friday night. Not much there, but most of this is coming in Saturday into Sunday. We're looking at very, very limited amounts around 8,000 feet. Once you get up above 8,000 feet and on up into the higher peaks, that's when we're going to start to see some of these amounts, 3 inches or so, where you have the potential of seeing over 3 inches. Some of this snowfall over the highest elevations of the Sawtooth and adjacent mountains could push 6 inches or a little bit more. That probability is running 30% or higher there. On into the Tetons, into portions of southwest Montana and western Wyoming. Some of those higher elevations getting some decent snowfall. Looking at the rainfall amounts, and you'll notice the limited snowfall here. That means it's a little warmer with this next wave coming in over the weekend. Many areas are seeing about a tenth to a third of an inch, but you can see some areas are running around a half to an inch, maybe even higher over the higher elevations of the Sawtooths. And this is also the same for the eastern highlands, especially through the Tetons and adjacent areas along on our side of the border, adjacent to Yellowstone and the Tetons as well. Then we'll go through Monday into Monday, and you'll notice temperatures dropping back across the board. The next wave comes in after we get later into Monday. So again, coming every 24 hours or so at this point. So once again, it's a wet period. It's not going to be raining all the time, but the amount of time that it's not raining is not going to be very long in some cases. That first round comes through today into tomorrow, and then with this pattern off the Pacific, we're not expecting Arctic air. We're not expecting cold temperatures. For the most part, there'll be usual this time of year. It's fall. There'll be some pockets of colder temperatures in the morning, but still, not too bad in the afternoon hours across central and eastern Idaho. Have a great Thursday out there, and do stay safe, everyone.